Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to another episode of S&M Radio. I'm Shannon.
Hi, Mark.
And this time we were talking about what I called the other day one of my favorite modern horror movies, but then I got to thinking about it, and it's 15 years old, so I don't know if that really classifies as a modern horror movie or not.
I think you can call it a modern horror movie. Anything after 2000.
I thought you were going to say anything after 1985.
Well, that too, yeah.
But we're talking about Jeepers Creepers this time around.
Yes, we are. A 2001 film. It is a really good horror movie. I think it's one of my favorite more modern horror movies as well. I think it's got some pretty cool stuff in it.
Yeah, I would put this one in the same class as the Wrong Turn movies. I'm trying to think if there was any others that really jump out at me right now from kind of that early 2000s mainstream horror. I would consider this a mainstream horror movie. I mean, this is...
Was that around the time of Cabin Fever?
Yeah, it would have been. That was a horrible, horrible movie.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one either.
Yeah.
Cabin Fever, another one around that time. I remember seeing Wolf Creek. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah, another movie that I was never a fan of.
Yeah, me neither.
You know what else would have been around this time, too? Roughly around the same time frame would have been like the Hostel movies.
And Saw, right?
Yep, Saw. Yep, probably right around there, too. I don't have any of these dates in front of me other than the 2001 for Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, Saw, I think, was 2000 and...
would have been 90... No, it would have been like, 2000 and... I was going to say 99, but that's way off. Would have been like 2003, 2000?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 3 sounds...
I actually remember when I watched Saw, the very first time I watched it, I pirated it off of the internet, and it was at that time because there was a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is the coolest horror movie ever," and I watched it, like a real crappy version of it that I found online somewhere. I think it was still in the theaters at the time, and I was going to school at that time, the year before I started my job, so that would have been 12 years ago.
Okay.
So 2004, maybe?
Yep, it's 2004. Looking at it right now. Yeah, I saw that movie in the theater. I was listening to, I don't know if you're familiar with Mancow's Morning Madhouse. It's like a kind of like a shock jock radio show.
Yep.
He had
land area.
Yeah. He had. I used to listen to him in the mornings, and he had Carrie Ells, the star of it, on, and he was talking about it, and the way he was describing the movie, he was like, "Yeah, this is the scariest movie ever," and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, all right, whatever. I'm gonna give it a shot. And sure enough, when I saw that movie in the theater, I was like, yeah, that was really good. I think I saw it 2 or 3 times in the theater.
Wow. Yeah, that was one of the ones that had a really good twist at the end of the movie that I don't think a lot of people saw. And that was a good one. What other ones were out right around that time frame? I'm trying to remember now.
Like the 90s and the early 2000s were kind of hit or miss for horror for me. So I was never a big Scream fan, and I know Scream was kind of like that was the rage in the 90s. And then the I Know What You Did Last Summer movies, and then the 2000s came, and then we had like this movie we're talking about today, Jeepers Creepers, and some of the other titles we talked about, like Wrong Turn. Then shortly after that period was when the remakes just started. Like it was like boom, 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 boom. I think it was Texas Chainsaw. I mean, my dates could be wrong, but I think the Texas Chainsaw remake hit, and then it was.
Yep, it was right around. The Texas Chainsaw was before Saw.
Okay.
Because I actually saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake in the theaters, in the house that I lived in, before I lived in the house that I saw it.
Okay. Yeah, and then the Hills Have Eyes remakes were around then. Then as it progressed, it kept going up and up and up, and then finally, like the big ones started to get hit too, like obviously Halloween and Friday the 13th and all that stuff. And I think it was like that was when I started to get into modern horror again. When they started doing the remakes, I started to like, oh, this is cool. Okay, yeah, okay, we'll check that out. And My Bloody Valentine 3D. They kind of grabbed us old folks who grew up with all those movies and like, oh, okay, we're doing those again. We got to check that out.
Yeah, that was also too right around the time when some of the like Hatchet come out.
Oh, Hatchet, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Chrome's Skull came out somewhere around in the mid 2000s, I want to say. Some of those movies, and then
yeah,
really that too is when and again, low budget's not technically the right term, but when, cell phones and digital cameras and all of this stuff really started to develop. And,
right.
That's when you had all of these people with no money making horror movies for, nothing. That's when some of that stuff started really taking off. Not that people weren't doing that before, but...
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, if you go on to any, jump ahead 15, 16 years, but, these days I have a link on my Facebook feed, probably once a week to some different, low-budget, independent horror movie that 5 guys and 4 girls from Louisiana are going to make, with the $5,000 they're trying to raise.
Right.
So
yeah, it's a different world now with technology.
And they, for the most part, a lot of that stuff, some of these real low budget movies, we haven't talked about like these movies yet, but there's a couple of movies from the same guy, Found and Headless. And then there's a couple other like real low budget movies that have come out over the past couple of years that are really, really good. Like, Found and Headless are really kind of gruesome and gory, and the subject matter is a little disturbing. But, for being put together for, like, I think, like, $10,000 or something ridiculously low number, they're really good. But back to the topic at hand, Jeepers Creepers from 2001, and I will say that this movie, not for myself, but I know for my wife, some others, the movie has wrecked the song Jeepers Creepers, or I don't even know if that's actually the name of the song, but
yeah, it is. Yeah, 1938 song.
But there's a lot of every time my wife hears that song, it gives her the chills, even though she's never I don't think she's ever actually seen the whole Jeepers Creepers movie. This movie is one of these, not, I wouldn't say typical, but it kind of starts off in kind of a familiar way. You have a brother and a sister. They're on a road trip, seemingly out in the middle of nowhere. I don't remember in the movie if they ever actually said where they were at.
I don't know where they were at specifically, but I know they were coming back it was spring break.
Right.
They're coming out of college, and it's a really good opening, in my opinion.
Yeah, it always reminded me of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the opening of that a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
But with this one, it's just a brother and a sister. At that time, the brother character, Derry, was, I would assume, was unknown, but shortly after this came out, he probably not. I wouldn't say he's a household name by any stretch of the imagination. But most people would recognize him as the Mac from the Mac and PC commercials that Apple was doing for a while there.
Oh, really?
Justin Long. Yeah, the movie starts out, they're coming home, like you said, for spring break or whatever, and they're like in this like back-ass road, driving this old-ass car, and they have like this weird, like rusted-out giant ice cream truck tank train looking thing comes up behind them, kind of runs them off the road and is trying to get around them at the same time. And then they run off the road and it goes around them, or it passes them, and then they go around it. And then they are still driving, and, they calm down after that happens. And then they see the truck up ahead, like parked at this old church, and they see this guy taking these like packages out of the back of the truck and dumping them in this like tube, and they see a couple of these take place, and then you can obviously see it's a body wrapped like in a bloody sheet.
Oh yeah.
But they're like, oh, what was that? What was that? And then the guy like sees him driving by, looking at him, and then jumps back into his truck thing and comes whipping around and goes chasing after him, and then runs him off of the road this time, and then keeps going. And then they're like, oh my God, let's go look down the pipe.
Yeah, that's horror movie etiquette, where, okay, we just saw this guy dump bodies down a pipe, so let's go find out what's going on in that pipe.
Yeah, I know. And, the guy, Justin Long's character, Derry, is trying to reason with his sister about this whole thing. Oh, let's go down the pipe. Oh, you would feel bad if we didn't go look at the pipe and you heard, you found out that something bad happened to the person. But, so they go back and they check out the pipe, and he falls into the pipe. While he's down there, like in this, like it's almost like the basement of the church or something. They see all these like bodies and stuff lying around, and there's a bunch of them like all stitched together, and then he gets out of there, and then they go like into town to try to find some help, and they go to like this diner. They get a phone call on the public phone. For those of you that don't know what a public phone is,
remember those?
It's a phone that used to hang on the wall that you would put coins into to make calls.
Wow. Gosh, that's like an ancient piece of technology.
Yeah. And you would call people's house phones. Those were phones that were in people's houses.
Connected to the wall.
Yeah. Depending on what kind of phone you had. Some people did have cordless phones. Other people's had phones that had a cord that was attached to the wall, so you were only limited to go as far from the phone base as the cord was.
Yep, and the cords were usually nice and curly, and you could stretch them. And depending how long your cord was, you could maybe sit like sit at your kitchen table while you were talking, or around the corner from your whatever room you were in.
So these kids are at the diner. They get this weird call from some lady that like knows them and knows what's going on. And then that's kind of where, at this point, like the cops are all like, you guys are crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. And then there's some other stuff that happens. And then they convince the cops to go with them to check out this old church. And then the church is like burning down. All the evidence is gone by the time they get there. Or not why they get there, but why like they're on the way there, and then that's when all hell breaks loose. Kind of on this ride back to the church, the cops are attacked, and then brother and sister, which is Trish is the sister's name, so Trish and Derry are attacked.
Yeah, and they finally meet the old woman,
the cat lady.
She's kind of like the, we've talked about this I think in way back when we first started doing this show. She's sort of the harbinger. She's like one of the, what's his name from the Friday the 13th movies?
Oh, yeah. Ralph.
Crazy Ralph. Yeah, she's kind of like that character. So she's like the one who kind of knows what's going on and, and like is warning everybody. And so she's a very, she's an integral part of the story, and kind of explains what this creeper is all about, or to some degree at least.
Now I'm trying to remember if they actually did they call him the creeper in the movie?
That's a good question.
I know if you look at different places, he's referred to as the creeper, but I just don't remember if they actually call him the creeper.
I'm not sure
in the movie.
And we should probably explain what the creeper is, or kind of give an idea of what this character's about. Because, it's not, you think it's like a human at first, because he's wearing a long coat and a hat, and so you don't really get a good look at him. But then you find out that, nope, he is not a human being.
They didn't really kind of explain what he was in that one.
Yeah.
It always reminded me of like a fallen angel, I guess, to where, he's like this, not necessarily a demon, but he's, he's all black. And then he has, for most of the movie, he's, just jumping around and stuff. But then he gets ran over. He sprouts wings, or they come out from under his jacket or whatever. And then you can see, like, he can fly. And so for the most part, he always reminded me of, that's what I always thought of him anyway, like a demon or,
Yeah, he's the way they describe him on Wikipedia is he's an ancient creature known as the Creeper, which hunts every 23rd spring for 23 days to feast on human body parts and organs, which become part of his own body. But yeah, he's like it's a pretty cool design I think they came up with. He's definitely like got kind of like that demon look, and he's kind of like the more of a modern day monster. When you think of the Creeper, he's probably like being like a known character, kind of like, your, I don't know, like the Alien or the Predator, or like even the slashers like the Jasons and the Michael Myers. He's become sort of like one of those known villains.
The only thing I didn't like about the design of the Creeper is there's one scene in the movie, and this might have happened a couple of times throughout the movie, but there's like towards the end of the movie, he's got like a hostage in there. He's in the same room with like a bunch of cops, and they have like their firearms pulled out, pointed at him, and they're gonna shoot him. And he's like reacting to that, and he's like screaming at him or whatever it is that this creature does,
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, like screaming at him. But when he would do this, like when he was like at him, he had these like claw things almost come off from like his like more threatening of a look. And when he did that, it always reminded me of the face huggers from Alien.
Yes, right,
and
exactly.
A little bit of Predator ripoff. Every time I saw that, I was like, why you have to make him do the Predator face? That's not cool.
Right.
So that was really like the only thing I didn't really like about him. But otherwise, I thought he was always cool. He had like that big old duster on, that like leather duster, and then he had that big old floppy hat that he always wore. I always thought he was kind of cool looking.
He was kind of cool looking. Yeah, he's kind of a neat design for. Yeah, I mean, they pulled a few things from some, like you said, like the Predator and what have you. So there's kind of like some similarities there. He kind of reminds me of too. I don't know why. Like, the movie's not really that close or that similar in tone or whatever. But for some reason, the Jeepers Creepers kind of concept reminds me of that movie, The Mothman Prophecy.
Yeah, I think the two of us give Jeepers Creepers a thumbs up. Recently, too, had been kind of following. It looks like they are going to go ahead and make. Currently there is two Jeepers Creepers, Jeepers Creepers 1 and Jeepers Creepers 2. And part 2 is not bad either. That's a decent movie. But they are supposedly working on Jeepers Creepers 3 right now.
Cool.
So I think that'll be out sometime next year probably. All right, everybody, so we're going to wrap up Jeepers Creepers. We'll be back next week with a more modern horror movie.
Even more modern than Jeepers Creepers, and Jeepers Creepers for us is like extremely modern. We go back to the 70s.